We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. Marcus Hayes had always believed routine was the backbone of marriage. He was a man of structure, a financial advisor who woke at 6 a.m. sharp, jogged 2 miles through their quiet neighborhood, and brewed 2 cups of coffee before his wife even stirred from bed. He loved the calmness of routine, and in that routine, he thought, was trust. His wife, Claire, had been the unpredictable one, the dreamer who loved surprises and the thrill of novelty. That difference, he once believed, was what balanced them. Until the night she made sure to crush him in front of a dozen people. It wasn't a fight at home, whispered through clenched teeth in their kitchen. No, Claire wanted an audience. She reserved a private room at their anniversary restaurant and filled it with their closest friends. Marcus thought it was just a gathering to reconnect. But once the appetizers were cleared, Claire stood, wine glass raised, and announced, "This marriage has been a waste of my prime years. I'm done pretending. I'm upgrading." The room erupted in applause, actual applause, while Marcus sat frozen, staring at the woman he'd given 6 years of his life to. His chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out his heart with a spoon. But instead of exploding, instead of begging for answers, he simply removed his ring, set it beside his untouched plate, and walked out. His silence slammed harder than any words. That night, while Claire reveled in her liberation, Marcus packed her clothes into boxes and left them neatly stacked at the front door. He wasn't drunk, he wasn't broken, he was calm, and that calmness terrified Claire more than any rage could have. But Marcus wasn't done, not by a long shot, because beneath that silence, he began crafting something she would never see coming. Marcus wasn't a man who wore his pain on his sleeve. Outwardly, life seemed to continue as normal. He still jogged his morning route, brewed his coffee, and left for the office at exactly 7:30 a.m. sharp. His neighbors waved, none of them knowing that just 3 weeks earlier, his wife had detonated their marriage in public like it was a celebration. But silence has its own weight, and Marcus carried it like armor. Claire, on the other hand, couldn't stomach it. The first week after her announcement, she flooded his phone with messages, long explanations about being confused, short apologies sprinkled with excuses, even angry outbursts accusing him of immaturity for not responding. Marcus read the first line of each message, then deleted them without hesitation. His revenge didn't require him to raise his voice. It required discipline. He knew the more he ignored her, the more desperate she would become. By the second week, the silence had turned Claire frantic. She showed up at his office uninvited, sending her sister to deliver tearful speeches about how marriages take work and how Claire had just been under stress. Marcus leaned against the reception desk, arms crossed, and answered coolly, "Stress doesn't make you rent out a restaurant, invite 12 people, and rehearse a speech about how your marriage is worthless. That's not stress. That's planning." He turned his back and walked away, leaving her sister speechless under the watch of building security. At night, Marcus found himself replaying every detail of their past 2 years. The late nights at the office that weren't really office nights. The girls' trips that never added up. He began piecing together the puzzle Claire had been hiding, her infidelity. It hadn't been just a dramatic announcement. She'd been preparing for this, grooming her exit while stringing him along. One evening, curiosity got the better of him. He opened her laptop, which she'd left behind in the rush of her staged liberation. Password was the same as always, her childhood dog's name. Within minutes, Marcus uncovered receipts for hotel stays, dinners for 2 billed to their shared account, and a thread of emails with a man named Tyler, someone she'd met through her gym. The messages weren't even careful. They dripped with the arrogance of someone who thought she'd already won. "Soon, Marcus will be out of the picture," she wrote in one email. "I'll finally be free, and we won't have to sneak around anymore." Marcus leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "Free," he muttered. She thought she'd upgraded, but Tyler wasn't the prize she imagined. Marcus checked Tyler's social media. No career stability, no property, no plan for the future. Just a man living off charm and promises. That's when Marcus knew what his revenge would look like. He wouldn't just expose her betrayal. He'd let her trip over her own lies until she was begging for the same man she discarded. He stopped replying to her attorney's early demands, letting them pile up unanswered. He changed the locks, notified his bank, and transferred funds into secure accounts Claire couldn't touch. Her spending spree with their credit cards backfired. Collections started calling within days. Meanwhile, Marcus devoted himself to his own life. He hit the gym every morning instead of every other day. He reconnected with old friends who actually cared about him, meeting for poker nights and long conversations over bourbon. He even signed up for cooking classes, something Claire used to mock him for wanting to do. His meals improved, his body leaned out, and his confidence sharpened like a blade. But Marcus wasn't only rebuilding. He was laying traps. He knew Claire was unraveling because the people who had cheered her liberation began calling him with guilty tones. They admitted she was couch-hopping, burning bridges, begging for a co-signer just to rent an apartment. "She's struggling, Marcus," one old friend said over the phone. Marcus chuckled. "She wanted independence. She can keep it." The most telling moment came at the grocery store. A woman from Claire's gym, one who had clearly known about Tyler, cornered Marcus in the cereal aisle. "She's hurting," the woman pleaded. "Maybe you could give her another chance. People say things they don't mean." Marcus tilted his head, his eyes piercing. "She didn't just say it. She performed it. She rehearsed it. She humiliated me in front of a crowd. That's not something you accidentally trip over like a shoelace. That's a choice." The woman had no reply. Marcus pushed his cart past her and left her standing among the boxes of Cheerios and Frosted Flakes. That night, Marcus sat in his living room, lights low, sipping a glass of scotch. He scrolled through Claire's social media feed, noticing how her post had shifted. Week 1 was champagne glasses and captions about new beginnings. Week 2 was inspirational quotes about resilience. Week 3 was darker, subtle hints about loneliness, fewer likes, fewer comments. The friends who had clapped so loudly at Antonio's weren't clapping anymore. And Marcus thought, "Perfect. Let her sink further. Let her taste the cold bite of silence while I prepare her reckoning." He began crafting the moment when her arrogance would meet his revenge face to face. By the third week, Claire's carefully constructed facade had collapsed. The woman who once raised a glass to her so-called upgrade was now cornered by bills, rejection letters, and whispers of shame from the same social circle that had cheered her on. Marcus didn't have to lift a finger to ruin her. She was doing that herself. All he had to do was watch and wait. One evening, while reorganizing his office shelves, Marcus found an old photo album Claire had put together early in their marriage. Pictures of their honeymoon in Maui, their first Christmas in the house, their anniversary trips to Antonio's. All those moments that once felt genuine. He stared at the photos for a while, not with longing, but with realization. She had taken the role of a devoted wife when it served her, but behind the smiles, she was already calculating her exit. And now, she wanted back in. That very night, she parked across the street from his house. Marcus spotted her headlights through the blinds and chuckled to himself. She stayed there for hours, probably rehearsing what she'd say if he came out. But Marcus didn't move. Instead, he poured himself another drink, turned up the television, and let her sit in the shadows. Her desperation was becoming a performance for him alone. The next morning, his attorney called. "She's requesting temporary access to the marital home," the lawyer explained. "Her argument is humanitarian grounds. Claims she has nowhere else to go." Marcus almost laughed into the phone. "Humanitarian?" She stood in front of 12 people and declared I was a waste of her prime years. "She doesn't get to come back under my roof. She's pushing hard," the lawyer continued. "But she's weakening. If you keep holding your line, she'll fold." "I'm counting on it," Marcus replied. At work, Marcus kept his composure. His colleagues noticed his sharper focus and cleaner energy. He was promoted to senior consultant by the end of that month. He didn't brag about it, but he knew the timing was poetic. Claire was spiraling while his life was rising. The turning point came when Claire's own lies began collapsing on her. One of Marcus's poker buddies, who had clapped at Antonio's, confessed sheepishly during a game night. "Man, I'm sorry for that night. We thought she was just being dramatic. We didn't realize she was serious." Marcus leaned back, cards in hand, and stared at him. "You applauded while she gutted me alive. Awkward doesn't even begin to cover it." The man's eyes dropped. "You're right. None of us should have clapped." Marcus smirked. "No, you did me a favor. That night showed me exactly who stood beside me, and who I could forget about." The table went silent. Marcus laid down his winning hand with a calm smile. Meanwhile, Claire's attempts at manipulation grew bolder. She staged emergencies, sending Marcus texts about chest pains and rushing to the hospital, hoping to draw sympathy. But when Marcus checked, the hospital had no record of her. A week later, she claimed her car had broken down. Yet hours before, she had posted a photo sipping wine at a rooftop bar. Each lie hardened Marcus's resolve. He saved every message, not to respond, but as fuel for his revenge. By week 4, Claire's tone shifted completely. No more apologies. No more fabricated emergencies. She was demanding, "You owe me a conversation. After 6 years, I deserve respect." Marcus read the message twice, then set down his phone with a grin. Respect? The same woman who treated him like disposable luggage now believed she was entitled to his attention. Her desperation climaxed when she showed up at his doorstep on a Friday night, holding takeout bags from their favorite Thai restaurant. "Marcus, can we just talk?" She called through the door, her voice trembling. She rang the bell again and again for nearly an hour. Marcus sat in his living room, savoring a pizza he'd ordered minutes earlier, the television glow painting his smirk. Let her neighbors watch. Let them see the woman who once strutted with confidence now reduced to begging on his porch. Saturday, she escalated, bringing reinforcements. Her mother, who had barely spoken to Marcus in years, appeared at his door. "She's impulsive," her mother pleaded. "You know how she gets. Don't throw everything away over one mistake." Marcus opened the door, just wide enough to speak. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on your way home." What she did was humiliation planned like a stage act. That's not impulsive. It's deliberate. He closed the door before her mother could reply. Sunday brought another act. Claire suddenly found faith, leaving notes about forgiveness and the sanctity of marriage. Marcus read them, tossed them in the trash, and smiled bitterly. By Monday morning, her mask had finally cracked. Claire called him directly at the office, her voice tight, a mixture of anger and desperation. "We need to meet today. It's urgent." Marcus leaned back in his chair, calm as ever. "What's so urgent, Claire?" She hesitated before admitting, "I need you to co-sign for an apartment. Nobody else will. You're the only one who qualifies." The silence stretched between them. For Marcus, the moment was delicious. Weeks of silence, guilt trips, and manipulation had all boiled down to this. She didn't want him back. She wanted his signature, his help, his stability. And that's when Marcus knew the moment had come. He would meet her, but not to help, to deliver the kind of revenge she would never forget. The coffee shop was busy that afternoon, filled with the hum of conversation and the hiss of the espresso machine. Marcus chose it deliberately, neutral ground, but public enough that Claire couldn't twist the story later. He arrived exactly on time, carrying a small cardboard box under his arm. He had planned this moment carefully, every detail honed to make sure his silence finally spoke louder than anything she could say. Claire was already there, dressed in a tailored blouse and heels that screamed of borrowed confidence. But the stress clung to her face in the form of pale skin, heavy eyes, and a smile that never quite landed. She waved him over, her manicured fingers trembling slightly. "Marcus," she said quickly, trying to sound poised. "Thank you for coming. I know this has been hard for both of us, but we need to be practical now." Marcus sat down across from her, placing the box between them. His voice was calm, measured. "Practical? You humiliated me in front of our friends, Claire. You called 6 years of marriage a waste of your time. That wasn't practical. That was performance." She flinched, but forced a smile. I know. I said things I didn't mean. I was overwhelmed, angry, confused. But this isn't about the past. It's about the apartment. I found a great place, but my credit isn't good enough and the landlord requires a co-signer. It's just a formality. If you'd sign, I can move on and stop bothering you." Marcus leaned back, studying her. "Credit issues? You mean the designer handbags, the dinners, the hotel rooms with Tyler?" Her breath caught. For the first time, her mask slipped completely. You went through my things? I didn't have to dig deep," Marcus said quietly. "You left the trail wide open. The only thing I didn't know was how long you've been laughing behind my back. Now I do." Claire's face paled, but she pressed on. "Marcus, please. That was a mistake. Tyler, he's nothing. I see that now. You were the one steady thing in my life, and I threw it away. I was stupid. I was selfish. But I need your help. Marcus slid the box across the table. Open it. Her brow furrowed. She lifted the lid and stared. Inside was a piece of flattened cardboard, clearly cut from moving box. Her eyes flicked up, confused. What is this? Your backup housing plan, Marcus said evenly. Since you're asking the man whose life you publicly dismantled to co-sign your new one, I figured you might need options. Cardboard makes for decent shelter if you know how to fold it right. Gasps rippled from nearby tables. Claire's lips parted in shock, her face flushing red. Are you serious? Completely, Marcus replied. His voice carried the kind of steel that silenced the room. You want an upgrade, remember? You paraded it in front of a dozen people. But upgrades don't come crawling back to the old model for help. They stand on their own. Clearly, what you found wasn't an upgrade at all. Her voice wavered. I made a mistake, Marcus. A big one. I know that now. Please, don't let me drown like this. 6 years has to count for something. Marcus leaned forward, his tone low, almost dangerous in its calmness. It does count. It counts as 6 years I gave you everything. Loyalty, trust, stability. And in return, you gave me betrayal, lies, and a performance in front of the people we called friends. That's what counts for. Tears welled in her eyes, her hand shaking as she clutched the edge of the box. I was wrong. I see that now. I thought I wanted excitement. I thought Tyler was something he's not. He left me the second things got messy. Marcus, I have nowhere else to go. My sister's done with me. My friends have all disappeared. Please, I need you. Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice never rose. And where was that knee when you stood with a wine glass and called me a waste of time? Where was that knee when you were sneaking around with him? You didn't need me then, Claire. You don't get to need me now. She dropped all pretense of dignity, her voice breaking as she whispered. I'll beg if I have to. Is that what you want? Marcus shook his head slowly. No, I don't want your begging. I want you to understand. Respect isn't something you demand after burning it to ash. You chose humiliation for me, so here's mine for you. The woman who declared independence and an upgrade is now begging her discarded husband for a signature just to keep a roof over her head. That's your reality. That's your revenge. The coffee shop was silent except for the hiss of steaming milk. Every pair of eyes was on them, but this time, the applause was gone. There was no cheering, no validation for her performance. Only silence. And her shame. Marcus stood, placing a bill for his untouched coffee on the table. He looked at her one final time. You thought you were freeing yourself that night, Claire. But the truth is, you freed me, and I won't waste that gift. He walked out, leaving her hunched over the cardboard box, trembling under the weight of every stare in that cafe. The divorce finalized 2 months later. The courtroom was quick and brutal. Marcus's attorney brought witnesses from Antonio's, people who testified to her very public declaration that their marriage was worthless. Those same cheers now worked against her. The judge granted Marcus the house, his assets, and denied her any spousal support. Claire left with nothing but her clothes and the reputation of a woman who had tried to turn her marriage into a spectacle. Word spread fast in their town. Videos of her meltdown in the coffee shop surfaced online, recorded quietly by strangers who had been present. Her downfall became a cautionary tale, whispered at gatherings and shared in private group chats. Meanwhile, Marcus thrived. He redecorated the house, filling it with things that reflected his taste and not her vanity. He returned to the gym, rebuilt his body, sharpened his career. Promotions came. New friendships formed. Slowly, even dating crept back into his life. Women admired his confidence, his calm strength, his refusal to tolerate disrespect. Claire, on the other hand, drifted to the edges of obscurity. She rented a tiny studio in the worst part of town, the kind of place that didn't ask for co-signers because they were desperate for tenants. Bars on the windows, broken elevators, flickering hall lights. Her social media went dark. No more champagne glasses, no more liberation speeches. The friends who once clapped, they vanished. Independence was easy to cheer for until it came with consequences. For Marcus, the real victory wasn't in seeing her suffer. It was in reclaiming himself. He no longer woke up second-guessing his worth. He no longer walked on eggshells, afraid of Claire's moods. He no longer wondered if loyalty was enough. He carried the wedding ring he'd left on the table at Antonio's in his drawer, not as a symbol of loss, but as a reminder that silence can be the sharpest weapon. That humiliation, when returned with patience and precision, cuts deeper than rage ever could. Marcus Hayes didn't just survive betrayal. He transformed it into power, into freedom, into a life entirely his own. And as for Claire, the woman who once declared she was upgrading, she had discovered the bitter truth. Sometimes, the upgrade you brag about in public is nothing but a downgrade in disguise.